In heaven, there is a special order of angels dedicated to the spiritual evolution of humanity. Headed by Archangel Michael, they are experts in the art of alchemy. Their sacred doctrine contains no references to black magic or mysterious formulas to transmute lead into gold. The substance these angels value most is the human spirit, and their mission is to transform a leaden soul into a golden light. The tools they use are knowledge, wisdom, and truth. In alchemy, angels symbolize volatile matter, or chemical substances that turn into vapor. Because the vapor rises, these substances are depicted as beings with wings, usually angels. Angels also sometimes represent the alchemist himself, a human who is more enlightened than most, and consequently superior like angels are in the celestial hierarchy. Spiritual alchemy is spiritual transformation, while physical alchemy is concerned with altering and transforming the properties within matter. In this video, you will know the 7 stages of alchemy or transformation, how to identify each stage, what is involved, and different methods to work through the alchemist transformation. Spiritual alchemy is concerned with freeing your spiritual self, which is trapped within you by the unrefined parts of yourself, such as your fears, personal beliefs, or self-loathing. Alchemy was the name given in Latin Europe in the 12th century to an aspect of thought that corresponds to astrology, which is an older tradition. Both represent attempts to discover the relationship of man to the cosmos and to exploit that relationship to his benefit. The first of these objectives may be called scientific, the second technological. Astrology is concerned with man's relationship to the stars, including the members of the solar system. Alchemy with terrestrial nature. But the distinction is far from absolute, since both are interested in the influence of the stars on terrestrial events. Moreover, both have always been pursued in the belief that the processes human beings witness in heaven and on earth manifest the will of the Creator and, if correctly understood, will yield the key to the Creator's intentions. Alchemy is the very old study and philosophy of how to change basic substances, such as metals, into other substances. It also studied how transmutation was related to magic and astrology. People who studied alchemy were called alchemists. Some things alchemists tried to do were change lead or mercury into gold, make the philosopher's stone, and make the elixir of life, which they thought could cure any disease and make someone young again. Alchemists believed that substances, minds, philosophies, religion, magic, and astrology were related to each other. They tried to find connections between them and understand one by understanding the other. Some alchemists use metals like gold or silver to represent spiritual or occult ideas. People in many different countries studied alchemy. In the 1600s and 1700s, people started to study only the properties of substances without trying to relate them to secret, old knowledge. They did experiments and wrote down what they discovered so other people could learn from them. One of the most important people who did these experiments was Robert Boyle. People call the new study of substances chemistry. Scientists have since discovered how to change one kind of element, the simplest kind of chemical substance, into another. In 1980, an American scientist named Glenn Seaborg discovered how to change a very tiny amount of bismuth into gold with a nuclear reactor. Making gold this way is much more difficult and expensive than mining or recycling it. Spiritual alchemy is an ancient practice with the goal of spiritual transformation, not material. On the other hand, alchemy was an occult science and a forerunner to modern-day chemistry. It began during the medieval period and sought to transmute base metals, such as lead, into gold. Alchemy was practiced by some people who wanted to attain material wealth and those who sought a universal elixir for immortality. Spiritual alchemy, then, is an ancient philosophy of mental transmutation. It uses the metaphor of transforming metals into gold for attaining spiritual enlightenment. It is used to achieve contentment, harmony, and awareness by liberating one's essence from one's acquired personality. The personality contains the inauthentic part of the self, including one's beliefs, concepts, opinions, wounds, fears, and phobias. In this way, the transmutation of lead into gold functions as a metaphor for the process of self-actualization and spiritual rebirth. Symbolically, we cannot turn lead into gold if our soul and psyche are not in tune with the material and mental process. The psyche of the mind must be in line with the spiritual alchemy process, which is the integration of the shadow into one's self. Perhaps there are issues within our character, our interest, our career, our family, other relationships, and even trauma from our childhood that we have not yet faced. While going through this transformation, we continue through each of the 7 stages, digging deep within ourselves to find healing, releasing, self-love, and ultimately, a spiritual awakening. The 7 stages of alchemy or transformation are calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation. Calcination, the first stage of spiritual alchemy, is also known as the black stage. The color black represents chaos, that which is hidden and buried, and the material of the unconscious. It also refers to the materia prima, which is the idea in occult sciences that all matter in the universe emerged from an original, primitive base. Calcination refers to the burning of the materia prima until it is transformed into ash. In a spiritual sense, it refers to breaking with our worldly attachments, the desire for status, wealth, and the need to solidify our identity. It's not to say these things are wrong, but according to the process, the development of a higher level of consciousness and the refinement of the spirit is hindered by these attachments. It also refers to the burning off of all the superfluous elements of ourselves that no longer serve us. We are purified by fire, and the hardened and dead parts of ourselves have burned away. All that has calcified in ourselves is removed in a similar way to how hardened plaque buildup on teeth can be removed. Our preconceived notions about our identity and our beliefs are put to the test in this calcination stage. Our ideologies and neuroses begin to lessen their grip on the persona, enabling one's true spirit to awaken. The second stage of spiritual alchemy involves dissolving the ashes in water. Water could be interpreted as a symbol for the unconscious, which contains the hidden parts of ourselves of which we are afraid and up until now have not been explored. Dissolution can be understood as the stage in which we free ourselves from our inauthentic and acquired sense of identity. In chemistry, dissolution refers to the dissolving of solid material, such as salt dissolved in water. It can be understood in Jungian terms as the dissolution of the ego. Since the dissolution stage takes water as its symbol, it is also associated with intense emotions, as water often symbolizes the reservoir of emotions we contain within. The dissolution stage involves the outlet of repressed emotions from traumatic events that we have pushed down in our psyche. It can be a very cathartic step as we free ourselves of past painful experiences. In the separation stage, the pure essence is extracted from the rest of the mixture. As the first 2 stages were associated with fire and water, separation is related to the air element. In a spiritual sense, it can be understood as separation from one's habitual thought processes or emotional trigger responses to step back and distinguish our essence from our acquired personality. Separation is a very liberating stage where we can free ourselves of resentment towards ourselves and others. It is a kind of liberation from negative emotions. By doing so, we can become aware of our true feelings. We separate ourselves from our inauthentic selves and step closer to our essential or higher selves. The separation occurs when we no longer identify with the character we have been playing, but rather we become the awareness itself. Awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and desires, but without identifying with them or becoming attached to them. Conjunction refers to the process of combining the elements from the previous 3 stages. In a sense, we see what remains within us, which is of value, and then begin to combine these elements to form one's authentic self. After the first 3 stages of purification by fire, water, and air, our disparate elements are brought together under the earth element. We begin a process of embodiment as the spirit begins its process of materialization. We begin to feel unified in body and soul, but we are still drawing together the different strands of our true selves, and we are not yet finished. Polarities cease their conflict and come together, such as male and female, body and soul, spirit and matter. Harmony is achieved between the different elements of our being. The attributes typically associated with the feminine, such as intuition and emotion, unify with those attributes conventionally associated with the masculine, such as intellect and logic. At the fermentation stage, however, you catch a glimpse of a more refined, authentic self. This stage can be likened to the rebirth of the phoenix from its ashes. The process can be split into 2, putrefaction and spiritualization. Putrefaction is the rotting away of our former selves as the superfluous is let go. Putrefaction can be a difficult stage and can involve strong feelings of depression or despair since we fear losing our identity, which is associated with our old self. Spiritualization, meanwhile, gives great relief as we begin to see the world in a new and luminescent way. It involves letting go of those parts of ourselves that no longer serve us in our present life. And as a result, this step can be accompanied by blissful feelings of inner peace and contentment. The distillation stage is the stage when all of the impurities are removed, and there is nothing left but the essence. In chemistry, distillation involves boiling and condensation to separate components and is commonly used in desalination. A liquid is boiled until it evaporates, and as the steam condenses, the essence is liberated from the matter. It marks the point at which our essence becomes spiritualized. In other words, in spiritual alchemy, distillation is a metaphor for the actualization of one's spirit. In Jungian terminology, this stage also involves the assimilation of any shadow aspects into our true self. It is the distillation of one's true self and represents a step up in consciousness as our core identity is freed from any inferior elements. At this stage, the ego has ceased dominating behavior as we begin to hear the voice of our soul. It also marks the point at which the conscious and unconscious aspects of the self are brought into harmony. Coagulation involves the complete unification of polarities, spirit and matter, body and soul, masculine and feminine, to form a single whole. In this final stage, one's higher self emerges, and it can be likened to the point when the gold cools and solidifies. The greatest achievement of the alchemist process is to heal the relationship between our mind and matter.